Election promises more binding than a prenup? Ah, the UK general election. That magical time every few years when politicians suddenly morph into used car salesmen, promising you the sun, the moon, and 20% off your next Tesco shop. They paint a picture so rosy, you can almost smell the fresh paint. They'll fix the NHS, boost the economy, and probably throw in a free set of steak knives, just to sweeten the deal, all while lowering taxes. It's enough to make you wonder if they've found a magical money tree hidden behind 10 Downing Street. Spoiler alert, they haven't. The reality is far less enchanting. Now, I'm not saying politicians are liars, they might just be overly optimistic. Okay, maybe I am saying that a little bit, but let's be honest, who hasn't stretched the truth a bit to get what they want? But the point is, these election promises come with a hefty price tag. They're not just words, they are commitments that can shape our future. And before you get swept away by the seductive whispers of free this and improve that, remember that every promise has a cost. It's worth taking a closer look at the financial realities behind those glossy campaign brochures. The devil, as they say, is in the details, because as we all know, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Every benefit has to be paid for one way or another, especially when it comes to government spending. The money has to come from somewhere, and that somewhere is often our pockets. So buckle up, because we're about to take a deep dive into the murky waters of election promises. Let's see what lies beneath the surface. The money pit. Where do they think it's coming from? Let's start with the basics. Every party loves to splash the cash during an election, promising billions for this and millions for that. They make grand promises, pledging to solve all our problems with seemingly endless funds. But where's all this money supposed to come from? It's a question that often gets lost in the excitement of campaign promises. Well, they'll tell you it's all carefully costed and accounted for. They present detailed plans and spreadsheets to assure us that every penny is in place. They'll throw around words like efficiency savings and tax loopholes like confetti at a wedding. These terms sound impressive, but often mask the reality. But let's be real, shall we? These efficiency savings usually translate to cutting services you actually rely on, and closing tax loopholes often means squeezing more out of ordinary folks like you and me. Efficiency savings usually translates to cutting services you actually rely on, and closing tax loopholes often means squeezing more out of ordinary folks like you and me. It's a delicate balancing act that rarely works out in our favour. It's like trying to fund a shopping spree at Harrods by raiding your kid's piggy bank. The money might be there, but at what cost? Sure, you might scrape by, but someone's going to be left feeling pretty shortchanged. The reality is these financial manoeuvres often leave the most vulnerable among us bearing the brunt. And don't even get me started on the independent analysis they use to back up their claims. These reports are often cherry-picked to support their narrative, leaving us to wonder what the real story is. Healthcare, the NHS, needs more than just thoughts and prayers. The NHS, our national treasure, held together by the sheer willpower of its staff and a frankly alarming amount of sticky tape. Every election, politicians pledge their undying love and devotion to the NHS, promising more funding, shorter waiting times, and a pony for every bedridden patient. But let's look at the reality, shall we? The NHS is chronically underfunded and overstretched. Throwing a few billion quid at it every few years is like trying to put out a house fire with a water pistol. We need real, sustainable investment in healthcare, not just empty promises and quick fixes. And we need to stop treating healthcare like a political football. Section 4, Education. Because an educated electorate is so inconvenient. Education, the bedrock of a strong society, the key to a brighter future, and apparently something politicians don't really care about that much. It's the foundation upon which we build our communities, our economies and our democracies. Yet it often seems to be the last thing on the minds of those in power. Sure, they'll pay lip service to the importance of education, but when it comes to actually putting their money where their mouths are, well, that's another story altogether. Promises are made during election campaigns, but the reality is often starkly different once the votes are counted. We've seen overcrowded classrooms, underpaid teachers, and a curriculum that seems hell-bent on churning out obedient worker bees instead of critical thinkers. The lack of resources and support for educators is alarming, and the impact on students is even more concerning. It's almost like they're trying to discourage young people from engaging in the political process. When students are not taught to think critically or question the status quo, they become less likely to challenge the system. We need to invest in our children's future by investing in education. This means not just funding, but also supporting innovative teaching methods and providing the necessary tools for success. Because an educated populace is not only good for the economy, it's essential for a healthy democracy. An informed and engaged electorate is the cornerstone of a vibrant and functioning society. Section 5, infrastructure. All aboard the pothole-free train to... Oh, never mind. Infrastructure, the sexy underbelly of any developed nation. It's not exactly the most glamorous topic, but it's kind of important. We're talking roads, railways, broadband, the arteries that keep the country running. And let's just say, those arteries are looking a little clogged. Every election we hear promises of gleaming new infrastructure projects, high-speed rail lines, super-fast broadband, bridges that don't threaten to collapse under the weight of a particularly chubby pigeon. But more often than not, these projects end up delayed, over budget, or scrapped altogether. We need a long-term vision for our infrastructure, not just short-sighted projects designed to win votes. Section 6, the economy, trickle-down economics, tax breaks and other fairy tales. And now the granddaddy of them all, the economy. It's the issue that dominates every election, the one that politicians love to bang on about the most. They'll promise you economic growth, job creation and more money in your pocket than you can shake a stick at. But here's the thing about the economy, it's complicated, like really complicated. And anyone who claims to have all the answers is either a liar or delusional. We've heard it all before. Trickle-down economics, austerity measures, tax breaks for the wealthy. We need an economic system that works for everyone, not just those at the very top. Section 7, your vote, your voice, don't let them pull a fast one. So there you have it, a whirlwind tour of the financial realities behind those shiny election promises. It's not pretty, is it? But here's the good news, you have the power to change things. You, the humble voter, hold the keys to the kingdom. Don't be swayed by empty rhetoric and vague promises. Do your research, ask tough questions, hold politicians accountable. Because the only thing worse than listening to politicians make promises they can't keep is letting them get away with it.